Hello, everyone, and welcome back to We Bought a Mic for a little upside down cast, a little Love and Thunder cast, and some Emmys thoughts as we get into the Emmys and the new Thor and the new Stranger Things. My name's Ernest.
I am Guns N' Roses' second biggest fan, Hunter.
Oh, behind Mr. Taika?
Behind Taika, of course. Well, I should say number 3 because number 2 is actually Drew, who isn't here because he actually had to save both of our lives by playing Metallica in a very epic showdown to
Master of
save us all.
Puppets.
Yeah, he had to save He just now learned of Master of Puppets. He had never heard of this band. He was like, Metallica? Is that what they're called?
80s metal, hair metal having a little bit of a massive comeback all of a sudden.
I don't know if Guns N' Roses is hair metal. Guns N' Roses are a little bit more. They
Poppy?
were more poppy than hair metal. Yeah, I mean they're dad rock. Both of them are dad rock now. So sure, we can just lump them together.
Well, we're here.
Guns N' Roses, like dads everywhere are furious at us for like comparing Guns N' Roses fan bases with Metallica fan bases.
Yeah, how dare you lump Guns N' Roses and Metallica together?
Yeah, I'm gonna be like,
just
I don't know, they're kind of like
everyone.
REO Speedwagon, right? Like, I don't know.
Well, we're here. We're back on Zoom. Back in the upside down. Back in Asgard. I got my Thor up here. Trying not to go full virtual background here, but just got to represent Dune and got to represent Mr. Thor here. Looks like he's smashing through the Captain America shield. He's very ACAB Thor,
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Sure. Why not?
Also, everything everywhere.
Is I got my boy Tom over here, which is all that I really need. Tom's like doesn't believe that police officers exist. He believes that he could just be every police officer.
Yeah, so. he is the police.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd jump in here and give you a little bit of kind of a mini catch up. Not really a catch up, but just kind of what's hot right now. What are people talking about? The big Marvel movie, the big Netflix genre show. So we're going to talk Thor, we're going to talk Stranger Things, but before then, thoughts on today as of this recording. The Emmy Award nominations have been released. Obviously, we don't have time to go through everything, but I just wanted to get some reactions. Do you have any reactions on these? I'll go through and read the nominees, but did you have, I don't know how caught up you are on these, Hunter. Any kind of gut reactions?
So I'd say it's kind of an unsurprising list. You were expecting a lot of Stranger Things. I was expecting a good amount of Severance representation because that show does kind of check a lot of the boxes, and Apple has kind of pushed
for it too.
They've been showing, and Apple's been pushing, and when a corporation like Apple pushes something, they have more money to push it than just about anybody else. So I wasn't super surprised.
So let me read the drama nominees real quick, because that's where you started. So the nominees for Best Drama Series are Better Call Saul, Euphoria, Ozark, Severance, Squid Game, Stranger Things, Succession, and Yellow Jackets.
So have you seen? Well, you haven't watched Ozark, right? But have you seen all of these other shows that are on here?
I guess so. Yeah. And I don't really plan on watching Ozark. Sorry, Danny.
Danny can fill us in. He told us it was blue, so that's enough for me.
But I guess I have seen all of them, but Ozark. Succession got the most love just across the board. It got the most nominations. I'm surprised to see Squid Game here and not in Limited, which I'll read in a second. But I guess it's getting a second season, so it just has to by default go in here. I'm ready for the Saul sweep. Just let's do it. It's the final season. I think technically 6B might be eligible for next year's Emmys. So the Saul sweep could come then.
Yeah, I was going to ask how that works because of the whole like splitting up your final season in 2 different windows. Just gonna throw this out there just as a preface to everything. The Emmys window is such nonsense on here. The fact that we have Squid Game, which came out, I think, approximately 100 years ago, and Stranger Things, which just premiered its last episode like last week, like 10 days ago.
Saul that's on right now.
The Saul that's currently on, like this is nonsense. These like collection of things that we've just decided arbitrarily to put together and pit against each other, but whatever. Really happy to see Saul get some love on here. Finally, you can give her her flowers now.
Ray Seahorn, Emmy nominee. Ray
Finally.
Seahorn for best supporting, which, you know, that's not the Emmys making that distinction. That's AMC and the producers putting her in supporting because they think that she might have a better shot of winning that category. By all means, she is a co-lead of the show at this point. But yeah, finally, oh my gosh, so overdue to get that nom. And I hope she wins it. I mean, she's up against like Sarah Snook and some other Succession co-stars, but I really am happy she got the nom. I'm hoping she wins.
So I was looking at that. I was surprised they didn't put her in lead, and maybe it's just because I actually haven't seen any of these shows that the lead actresses were in. I know Toni Collette for The Staircase, Julia Gardner for Inventing Anna, Lily James for Pam and Tommy, Sarah Paulson.
You're looking at Limited. That's Limited.
Oh, am I looking at Limited? Oh, okay. So it's Rachel. Oh, okay. It's kind of Rachel Brosnahan for Marvelous Maisel. Abbott Elementary. That was kind of surprising seeing so much Abbott.
Now you're looking at comedy. See, this is the thing with television.
God, dude, there's too many fucking categories on here.
The thing is, like, we're at a point right now with television that they need to change the way they do these categories, because Barry is not a comedy. It doesn't make sense for Barry to be next to Abbott Elementary. Like, that just, it's so bizarre. Here are the nominees for Outstanding Comedy Series: Abbott Elementary, Barry, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Hacks, Only Murders in the Building, Ted Lasso, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and What We Do in the Shadows. I feel like Barry really sticks out from that, because that show is
comedy.
Yeah, that show is comedic elements, but it's a drama. It's like one of the heaviest dramas on television. So
it's definitely one of the bleakest shows on television. Like, I think in this, if we're comparing like the last season of TV that we saw, I laughed a lot more in the last season of Succession than I did in the latest season of Barry. So like, you could just completely flip those two if you really wanted to. But I think it's because it's one of those things where, you know, it's the same thing that happened with the awards that we no longer talk about, the Golden Globes, where just a win in drama means more than a win in comedy.
Yeah, it's like drama by default is like the best picture equivalent of the Emmy Awards. Yeah,
that's the closing. That's what you end the ceremony on, is on the drama winner. There's too many. I've said this and the Grammys are the worst version of this, but too many awards. Like
too many nominees.
Too much going on, or too many nominees. Like, some things have like 6 nominees. Some, like, supporting actress in a drama has, I think it's 8. Yeah, 8 nominees. It's too many. Just do 5, maybe 6.
And they've kind of also backtracked on their diversity representation rates. Like, if you look at lead actor in a comedy series, the only person of color is Donald Glover. The rest are all white men, talented white men. You got Bill Hader, you got Steve Martin, Martin Short, Jason Sudeikis, Nicholas Hoult. Like, not to fault these guys' talent, but I feel like the Emmys for a while were doing a really good job at kind of like making sure to show the wide variety of faces that we see on television. And this year, it seems to like maybe have taken a step back. The cast of Squid Game is in there a good bit, so at least you have that. But yeah, a lot of white faces, which, you know, it's not the best look when you're trying to kind of represent the breadth of what television has to offer. And you could say the same thing about like just all these nominees in general. I'm not super upset from these nominees. Obviously, I'm glad Succession and Better Call Saul are in there. I'm glad Severance is in there. Adam Scott is now an Emmy nominee for Severance, which I'm really excited about. Ted Lasso's kind of the reigning champ over on the comedy side, so we'll see if it kind of keeps that crown. I'm glad to see Hacks getting a lot of love on that end. The limited category is kind of what's giving me pause.
Yeah, well, I will say, because overall the actual nominees for best limited series are not my favorite thing in the world, but I do love seeing all the White Lotus love between supporting.
It's gotta clean up, right? It's gotta be the one.
So here's the thing: is that I don't think that they have a single nominee in lead actor or actress for a limited series, but there's 5 nominees in supporting actress from the White Lotus,
and
between
actor.
Connie Britton, Jennifer Coolidge, Alexandra Daddario, Natasha Rothwell, and Sydney Sweeney, and then another 3 nominees for supporting actor with Murray Bartlett, Jake Lacey, and Steve Zahn. Murray Bartlett has to win, right?
That's like
the most. That this is like, it's kind of the perfect ideal situation in which a very give me awards type performance aligns with an actual really quality once in a lifetime type performance. That's they got to give it to our guy.
Honestly, I could see them fumbling the bag on this one though, and then
they're like,
just giving
Seth
it
Rogen
to
for Pam and Tommy,
or one of these Dope Sick guys. Dope Sick, a show no one has watched. That's the thing, is you always get that show in there that's like, who watched that? Did anyone watch that? But yeah, the nominees for limited anthology are Dope Sick, Inventing Anna, Pam and Tommy, The Dropout, and White Lotus, which I think is the worst selection in this category in years, because this has been a really strong category in recent years. Last year, The Queen's Gambit won, and it was nominated alongside Mayor of Easttown, I May Destroy You, Underground Railroad. The year before that, Watchmen won. The year before that, Chernobyl won. This has been a really strong category. And the fact, and Twitter is already blowing up about this, the fact that we don't have Midnight Mass in here, and the fact that we don't have Station 11 in here is egregious. This was the chance to nominate these 2 amazing shows. That's what this category is for. Come on, what happened? I don't get it, but whatever. I hope White Lotus gets it as some type of consolation.
I hope so too. I think that it will, based on the sheer number of acting nominations that it has. It's also got the whole thing where it's delivering a social message, but in a very digestible way for people. Where a show like I May Destroy You, which was the best show of the year when it came out, was a little bit too hard to swallow for some stuffy white collar Hollywood people. So I think that White Lotus will win. You're right, though. No Midnight Mass, no Station 11 is insane.
Hamish Patel did get in there for acting. That's the one I'm going to be watching on Emmy night, and that's going to be, I always have one category that I'm like, this needs to happen. That's going to be my one, is I need Hamish Patel for Station 11 to win. He probably won't.
Probably not. So let me double check something. Did nobody, there was literally no nominations for Midnight Mass at all.
Justice for Hamish Linklater.
That's insane. Oh, cool. They got a nomination for Outstanding Sound Editing. Sick. Are you kidding me? Hamish Patel gave my single favorite performance in anything last year. Hamish Linklater.
He's fucking phenomenal in that show.
It's incredible. It's so singular, and man,
just go watch Midnight Mass on Netflix, everyone. It's truly a tremendous show. But yeah, that's the Emmys. A lot of good stuff, some questionable stuff. Shout out to Bill Hader. You fucking rock. I hope that does he have an Emmy? He must have won at this point, right? Also shout out to Abbott Elementary for Bill Hader has won 3 Emmys. Okay, good.
I'm sure, yeah, SNL stuff.
Abbott Elementary for continuing to fly the network TV flag. There's always one show in the era of streaming. There's always one show that's like, hey, basic network TV, we're still here. We're still here, everyone. Have you ever watched this show, Abbott Elementary?
No, I haven't.
It's all on Hulu. I recommend it. I think that we need to hold on to shows like this that are just like so simple and easy and like don't require any type of effort at all. And you just kind of have it on, kind of like that Office type of vibe, where it's just like, it's a nice, mellow show.
Yeah, it's like a nice warm blanket. It's just like, it's nice and pleasant and you don't have to think too hard about it. And yeah, I will say, I don't care one way or another because I have not watched the show and I never will, because I'm not middle-aged and living in the suburbs. But no, This Is Us for its final season was kind of surprising.
Wow, I didn't even clock that.
That seemed like
moms everywhere are seething right now.
Yeah, because you talked about how Twitter's irate about no midnight mass. I'm sure Facebook is on fire right now by the lack of This Is Us representation. It's kind of shocking that there wasn't, because that show got nominations. In the past, so I don't know why it was flying that
network flag.
It didn't get that last season bump that a lot of these award shows get, but who knows? Hopefully one day I'll be able to fucking watch the new season of Better Call Saul. AMC has just made it as difficult as possible, so I guess
you didn't set your DVR. I told you to set your DVR, Hunter.
I just want to watch it. AMC, listen, I'm gonna talk straight to the camera real quick. Mr. AMC, if I can address you as such, can you please let me watch your only fucking good show that you have on your network? Please, this is all that I'm asking for you. I'll watch Talking Saul afterwards with Chris Hardwick. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want to be able to watch your show, and you're making it as difficult as possible because it's not streaming anywhere. You have a streaming service called AMC Plus, and you don't have the show on the service.
It's ridiculous. You know what I was trying to do the other day? I was trying to see if it was available via VPN through Netflix, because there are some countries that have Better Call Saul through VPN, and for some reason now that's not even a thing, where you have to for some reason travel to the physical country to watch it through Netflix, and you can't VPN it. But here, all right, tune out AMC. All right, stop listening, AMC, go away. I'm gonna bootleg my DVR recordings for you. Okay,
thank you. I just want to be able to catch up. I'll pay for like a month of YouTube TV or whatever I have to do to watch it live.
But now you can't now because it already happened.
That's the problem, is that I can catch up to this point. Like if I could just catch up to this point, then I'll be fine. But there's no way to watch like the first 6 episodes of this season. It's insane. Truly just baffling. I can't wait for AMC to go back to just complete irrelevance once Better Call Saul ends in the next month and a half.
All right. Well, that's the Emmys. Let's shift gears a little bit to the shores of New Asgard in nondescript Scandinavia, Norway area. I see a little ice cream parlor with a infinity gauntlet. It says infinity cones. What must this be? Is this the set of Taika Waititi's latest film, Thor: Love and Thunder? Whoa, we've arrived.
Real quick, because you mentioned nondescript Scandinavia, Netherlands, Norway region. Would this movie be better or worse if, like, right alongside the center, if you took all of Korg's scenes and replace them with Alexander Skarsgård as Amleth from the Northman, just lugging around, just with just full underbite. How would that affect this movie?
That would be incredible. I would watch the shit out of that.
We should pitch that cut.
All right. So before we dive into this movie, quick little bit of background here for the listeners. How do you feel about Thor? He's your favorite Avenger, right? The original Thor film is your number one MCU movie.
Yeah, so longtime listeners know I'm a big fan of Dutch angles, and I like especially needless Dutch angles. When you can just see a guy walking towards you, but it's like a little bit crooked. That's my favorite type of thing. No, I think that the first two Thor movies are the two worst movies in the MCU. I've said that before. I don't know what the hell Kenneth Branagh was thinking with making the first Thor movie. And then if you read about anything about the production of the sequel, I'm blanking on name.
The Dark World.
The Dark World.
You don't know Malekith,
for some reason I went to say Into
Elf?
Darkness, and I was like, that's Star Trek. Not quite. No, The Dark World. The production, they went through multiple directors in the making of that film, to the point where Natalie Portman isn't even in some scenes, and they had to CGI Chris Hemsworth's real life wife with a wig on to play Natalie Portman in some scenes. That movie's awful. Both of them are really bad. And I think that was kind of because they didn't really know what to do with the Thor character. They tried to almost take like this like stoic godlike approach, because it's the first god that they really had in this MCU as we've seen it. And so they were just like, well, he's a god, so we can't make him have fun. Then of course, during the making of Thor, or just post Thor the Dark World, Chris Hemsworth has been kind of audible. He went to Kevin Feige and was just like,
I'm
basically like at like almost a mental breakdown of like, I can't play this character anymore. Like I can't be myself in this character. I'm just like sleepwalking through all of these goddamn movies. And then insert Taika Waititi in Thor Ragnarok. And it's a whole new look at this character. It's Chris Hemsworth getting to be his fun, charismatic self, the Chris Hemsworth that we know and love. And that is one of my favorite movies in the entire MCU.
We didn't know we could even have. I think that the genius of that movie was showing audiences that side of Hemsworth in the first place. You know, because that, I guess maybe some people had seen the 2016 Ghostbusters at that point, but most people really hadn't. This was like the first glimpse at like, oh, you're not only hot as fuck, you're also like really funny. And yeah, funny enough, Ragnarok, one of the first movies we talked about on this podcast.
Oh yeah, 2017. Yeah, I guess it was like November 2017.
Yeah. And I think a movie that holds up pretty well. I haven't revisited in full in a couple years, but I feel like if I did, I would really like it. I feel like a lot, I mean, we'll get into it, but a lot of the villain stuff in this movie with Christian Bale isn't as memorable, is more memorable than the Cate Blanchett stuff in that movie. When I think of Thor Ragnarok, I don't think about Cate Blanchett. I think about Thor, and I think about the kind of the energy between him and Valkyrie and Hulk and Jeff Goldblum and Loki and everything that's going on there. I don't really think about Hela. I think when you compare it to this new movie, the Christian Bale side of things is a lot more memorable when you're just looking at like the villains of the movie. But yeah, I think that the Ragnarok of it all is worth mentioning going into this movie, because that was a huge reinvention of the character, and this seemed to, on first glance, kind of double down on that, and it seemed to give us like all of that and then some.
Well, but I mean, before we even get into Love and Thunder, should also say, not only did it reinvent Chris Hemsworth and kind of shine a new light on him, but it did the same thing with Taika Waititi. We were familiar with Taika from like something like What We Do in the Shadows, which is fucking incredible, Hunt for the Wilder People, which is also just a banger of a movie, probably like the most emotionally deep that any of Taika's movies have actually gone to. And he was, for the most part, this kind of indie filmmaker, made some comedies with his friends, but the vast majority of the country did not know who Taika was. And this put him on the map in a huge way. And now Taika is probably, what would you say, one of the 10, 15 most powerful directors in Hollywood? Like,
I don't know
he's now
about
directed.
powerful, but he's definitely working, and he's definitely everywhere.
I'm just saying, I'm powerful. Maybe powerful isn't the right choice of word, but he is now. This is his second Marvel movie. He's got a Star Wars, multiple Star Wars things down the line. He was already
Mandalorian episodes.
Directed Mandalorian episodes. He was already in a show this year acting. Our Flag Means Death,
which he is genuinely great in, and the Twitter backlash against Taika is in full force at this point. People are turning on this man, and I think it's pretty expected just because of how high profile he is and how kind of in the front of the camera. You know, he plays Korg in this movie. He's literally in the movie, and he can't help but like insert himself into so much of his work. So it's only natural for somebody that high profile to get to a place where people start turning on him. But yeah, I think that he is a singular voice, and I think that he comes into the MCU from this different angle from where it was before he came in, and kind of shakes it up for the better and kind of improves it in a lot of ways. But I think that this movie is, in a lot of ways, people not really vibing with his shtick anymore. And also, you know, I think that he just can't, he's doing too much, and
he can't help himself. He cannot help himself.
He can't help himself, but he also can't give himself over to a single project all the way is the other thing, right? Because he's acting over here, he's producing over there, he's directing this and that. He's really spread thin, so no project is going to have his full creative juices going fully into it, right? So I think a lot of the pushback against this movie is because it is more Taika than Ragnarok, but also it's like it's a lot more watered down as a movie in a lot of ways. And I love this movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not here to defend this movie, right? I've heard all the criticisms. I have time for pretty much every criticism that you want to throw at this movie. I also wrote an article for the website, weboundamike.net, that people can check out, that lays out a lot of my thoughts on it. And maybe we can use it as kind of a outline for our discussion here. But I had a good time sitting in the theater watching this movie. Am I going to think about it that much afterwards? No. But it's, I don't know. I think when it comes down to how I feel about this movie, I think that for some reason, things were lined up perfectly for me to receive this movie as it was and not try to put it in any other box. And something clicked in which I understood how stupid this movie is, how juvenile and nonsensical, and also in a lot of ways how low effort it is, and how like Taika just kind of didn't care. He just didn't fucking give a shit about like making like a good movie. For some reason, like all of these things like kind of click for me, and I was able to enjoy it. And sure, there's a lot of things that don't work, and you know, it's not a perfect movie. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, which I think is pretty generous. And yeah, we'll get into some criticisms, but for some reason it didn't really disappoint me or anger me or anything like that, just because I was like, you know what, this is so dumb, this is so fucking stupid, that I'm just gonna accept it as it is, and I'm gonna have fun. So those are my thoughts. What are yours?
So it's interesting because I agree with a lot of the things that you said about it being stupid and juvenile and feeling low effort, but I did not love this movie. This movie, so back up a little bit here. This movie to me kind of is like the perfect encapsulation of how I feel about everything phase 4 of Marvel, where it just kind of feels like it feels pointless. And I don't mean that in like that I want this to lead, like it has to lead to Secret Wars. I don't care about any of that like YouTube theory building bullshit. Like I don't mean pointless as in like it has to lead to all of our friends coming together out of portals to fight one big bad guy. I mean that in the way of like it feels like I wasted my time after seeing this movie. Like this movie just felt like a waste of 2.5 hours of my life that I will never ever get back. And then I left it and I was like, did I feel anything at all? No, I didn't feel a goddamn thing while watching this. Like I didn't find it to be particularly fun. There's a couple sequences that look pretty good, look interesting. At least there are some choices made, but for the most part, I think that a lot of this movie looks like absolute dog shit. Like I think that it looks like truly one of the worst Marvel movies in years. It's shadow monsters and shooting shadow monsters in nighttime. Like it for all the people who are complaining about the Battle for Winterfell, see like that whole thing in Game of Thrones, that was just running through my head because I was in a movie theater, in a dark movie theater, and I'm like squinting my eyes at the screen, trying to be like, what the fuck am I even looking at right now? And it kind of just feels like a lot of people just didn't really try. It felt like, oh, we're 5 years since the last Thor movie. I guess we got to shit out another one of those things. And it just, there's like kind of sequences that feel like a better movie encompassed in here. And it
Yes.
almost feels like we got the worst possible version of this project. Like we got all of the bad seeds, and it's just nitpicking from like 6 different movies and cramming it together. So it's a goddamn tonal
The
fest.
tonal whiplash is
It's
insane.
so insane. I don't want to get into spoilers or anything like that because we can reserve a little bit of discussion for that. But let's say that one of the characters is not doing well health-wise. There is a cancer subplot
That's not a
that's happening here.
spoiler. That's in
I
the
don't know if
comics. It's
well,
a
okay,
direct
everything's in the fucking
adaptation.
comics, but like there's a cancer subplot to this story. So we go from that to like
They really watered that down. I think that
of course they did.
the Jane Foster part of this movie, look, Natalie Portman is a queen, and I hope that she got a huge paycheck from this. That is
I'm sure
the
they
biggest.
gave just to get her to come back after she was so hard out after Thor 2. I'm sure that
Yeah,
they had to cut her a massive check.
she's a very talented actor. She doesn't really get to flex her acting chops, but she does get to flex her muscles in this movie. And I'm happy for her. She gets to have fun wielding the hammer, doing her thing. And, you know, good for her. The actual like dramatic heft of her storyline is so half-assed. It's so nothing.
It's so bad. Like it's like laughable. Like truly it is. There was a few times
But not
where
because
like
of her. She's
no.
fine.
That's the thing. It's not because of her. I will say, I actually think that pretty much everybody acting like did a great job. Like I think Chris is like trying to do
Her
his thing.
comedic attempts are kind of shaky, but maybe
Yeah, well,
that's the point.
that's not great. Natalie Portman also, you don't cast Natalie Portman for her like comedic timing.
Hey, that one rap she did on SNL is like the best comedic thing she's ever done. That was fucking amazing.
Yeah, that was great. She also didn't write that. And so we'll get to Christian Bale because I think he is by a country mile the best thing about this movie and the only thing that I care about at all, to be honest.
I wish that was the movie.
Yeah, I want to save like a whole segment for Christian Bale. But before we get to that, if we're just talking about biggest loser of this movie, I think it's Taika. Dude, like this is the first movie I was like annoyed. Like this whole time while watching this movie, it just was like I could not stop rolling my eyes at like almost every other line because
especially because he's saying half of the lines.
Yeah, people make fun of like Joss Whedon and how like he injected this like joke per minute count. This is like the most notable. Maybe it isn't as high as like some of the as the first Avengers movie as the joke per minute count. And I do think that's a lot worse that Taika does insert himself in scenes for literally no goddamn reason. Like, why is Korg there? Like, I just kept thinking he looks like shit. Like it's so much worse than he looks in Ragnarok.
There's a close-up of his face at the beginning that is so noticeably like way worse than he was in Ragnarok. And I was like, oh no.
There was that Twitter thing going around where it's Taika and Tessa Thompson talking and like almost joking about like, does that look real to you? Talking about Korg.
That's so shitty. They're shitting on the fucking VFX artists that are working so hard.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
It looks so bad. And like he's just in scenes where like he doesn't even talk. And so it's so glaring that you just have like a CGI atrocity just like standing there hulking in the background just for no goddamn reason. Or maybe you just like bust out one little like one-liner that doesn't land at all. I was really annoyed. This honestly, like I've become more and more lukewarm on Jojo Rabbit as time has gone on. That isn't a movie that's aged well.
Didn't we see that together? I think we did.
Yeah. And I liked it in the theater.
We weren't I don't remember being that high on it myself out of the theater. I remember being a little bit more mixed on it.
I remember liking it, but it's a movie that I don't care to ever watch again. Which now it's one of those things where you walk out here and you're like, I enjoyed that. But it's like, do you ever want to see it again? No, then was it really that great to begin with? And now coming off of JoJo is a little bit of a down. And this, I hope that this is as low as he gets. Since he's scraping the Star Wars we'll fucking see. We might just not even have reached the floor yet of Taika.
Well, he has that movie Next Door Wins coming out. Next Goal Wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the soccer movie, which, he's doing this one for you, one for me thing where he's trying to also get an Oscar while playing in the Marvel machine. And,
and also acting in One Flag or Our Flag, and then producing What We Do in the Shadows, and then doing all these other things.
He puts his name on like a billion things. I mean, even like, who knows how actually involved he is, but like he's willing to slap his name on something like Reservation Dogs, and then that can Taika Waititi presents Reservation Dogs. That gets that shit on the front of Hulu.
Also, he was in Free Guy. Remember? He's the bad
because
guy.
That's not a real movie. That's not a real movie, and I'll never actually watch it. I think so you're right.
Epic.
I think it's coming down to like maybe he's stretching himself too thin to the point where he can never fully actually invest in one project. I don't know. This movie just kind of got on my nerves. I was watching this with Gaia, and the first 45 minutes to an hour of this movie, I think, are like truly horrendous. And Gaia looked at me and said, I think I might leave, and I might just have to come pick you up in an hour and a half. Like, she was just so hard out. The like rushed in storylines, the fact that we're just gonna have to play like the game of Korg's just gonna tell us everything that's happened over the last 15 movies, and also catch us up on what Thor's been up to in the meantime. It just felt so previously on and so unnecessary. Why are the Guardians even in this movie? Like, Why? I just
That
give me
that could
just
have
make
been a
that
whole
movie.
movie.
Make that
Yeah.
a whole movie. That sounds fun. Like that. If you just want to make a Guardians movie, then let's just make a fucking Guardians movie. I don't know, man. It's so all over the place. I felt like I was just being jerked around in every different direction in the theater. And let me tell you, my audience was just not feeling it at all. I know you went opening night. I didn't go until Monday night after, but there was still a decent amount of people in the crowd, and people were not feeling it. I did a thing that I have not done in a long time, which is I did not watch the post-credit scene.
Yo, you miss
I
Roy
was
Kent.
no,
He's
I
here.
read about
He's
it. Don't worry.
there.
I read about it. I read about
He's
it. It's
every
fine.
fucking
I was at
where.
a point where I was just completely after 2 hours and 20 minutes, I was like, you've had enough of my time. I can only listen to Sweet Child of Mine so many times in the course of 2.5 hours. It plays 3 times, my guy. There is more than one Guns N' Roses song. Oh, wait, they also play Welcome to the Jungle 1 time. So we have 1 time of Welcome to the
Paradise
Jungle.
City.
Okay. All right.
I think November Rain's in there too.
Does
So.
November Rain? Oh, well, okay. Then I missed that. I just know they play Sweet Child of Mine 3 goddamn times, and that's too many times.
But Hunter, Thor has a sweet child at the end of the film. It's Love and Thunder together.
I never. Dude, I can't get over how bad a lot of this movie looked. Like, and it just kind of like flippantly looks bad. Like, I just kind of think about I've been thinking about this movie a lot since I saw it last night. And one thing I keep thinking about is like whenever they go to the like God world and everything,
Oh,
there's
Russell
so much
Crowe.
potential for that to be really cool. And it's just kind of like very much just like looks like shit and not even like trying to look good. Like those little like guards that are coming and eventually fight with Thor, he just like kills them and they just turn to gold, but
Yeah, they
it
just
honestly
poof.
it kind of looks like piss, to be honest. Like it looks like dehydrated urine. I'm not even saying that to be like gross. It reminded me a lot of and I know that you have not seen this movie, but the 2017 film Power Rangers.
Oh, hell no.
In that movie, I think it's Elizabeth. Is it Elizabeth Banks?
Yeah.
Yes, Elizabeth Banks plays the villain in that film, and she like turns everything to gold. And I remember seeing in the theater, I couldn't stop laughing because it has pretty much the exact same CGI effect, and it looks
Nice.
so bad. This like dark yellow, liquidy juice that's supposed to represent gold, and it's kind of the same effect is used in this, and it just looks really bad. I never felt anything because Taika, obviously, I don't even think wanted us to feel anything with the fact that
Right.
he's just constantly willing to just like undercut every single dramatic beat that's in here.
Yeah. It's that's the thing, is that in Ragnarok, that I love that movie, but that movie struggles with some of the tonal kind of whiplash a little bit, where it is telling this heavy story about Thor losing everything. He loses his weapon, his eyeball, his hair, his entire fucking Asgard planet home. Like he loses everything. And also it's like this funny kind of deconstruction of the Marvel superhero story with jokes and all these things. So I think that's kind of where Taika is able to do his thing, where he's able to find a way through the tones, like What We Do in the Shadows is a very violent movie, but it's also hilarious and weird and kind of cringe comedy, uncomfortable humor type of deal. He's able to navigate these tones really well. Jojo, I think, was like the first time that it started to get a little shaky, because it's like, all right, we're talking Hitler, we're talking Holocaust, we're talking, like Nazi Germany here, but we're also doing kind of like this whimsical coming of age tale, which I know it won him an Oscar, but it's like, are we sure about this? And here it's like, it's the same deal. It's like, we're leading so hard into the whimsy, colorful, just bubblegum pop, and also trying to have this like heavy story about cancer and about Gore the God Butcher trying to kill all the gods. And it doesn't quite work, and it doesn't mesh nearly as well as he's able to do it in his other movies. I think that the reason why it worked for me is because I was kind of able to hold on to the parts that did work and let the ones that didn't kind of wash over me. And it wasn't as much of a deal breaker throughout the movie. And honestly, like I did laugh a lot. I don't know if it was my theater or if it was my mood that day, but like a lot of the humor, I was just like, man, this is so stupid, but it's working for me. I guess that's just like my style of humor. Like the screaming goats, I laughed
Screaming Goats is
every
good.
time.
Screaming
Every time
Goats
it
did.
got me.
That was funny. I think the Screaming Goats was a good bit. And honestly, the stuff with the most chemistry in this movie is Chris Hemsworth with
That's hilarious.
Stormender. It's so good of him just like looking at
The
Mjolnir and then just
wheel.
floating into frame. That was genuinely great. Like that
Such a
actually
good
made
bit.
me just laugh really hard. And that was a whole thing that was happening.
Yeah, and Taika's he's not interested. We saw this again with Ragnarok. He's not interested in really diving into like the serious drama of the first two Thor movies. That's being completely thrown out the window. He wants to tell a story that's really, really flimsy and just kind of like whatever. And I think that people aren't really vibing with that because I don't know. I've even seen some people try to reclaim the first two Thor movies, and now they're saying that like those are actually good now, just because the reception to this movie is so negative.
Guys, I have listeners. I have bad news for you. Everything from your childhood isn't good. I'm sorry. We aren't reclaiming the first two Thor movies. We aren't reclaiming Four Stick as being good. We aren't reclaiming the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. Those are bad. Sometimes movies are just bad, and they can just be bad, and they can stay bad. They don't instantly become like reevaluated and becoming good. They're just bad things.
So someone who's never bad is Christian Bale.
So this is actually I have a point about Christian Bale that kind of transitions into talking about him, but I think that it's ironically Christian Bale is the best part about this movie, and also I think he might be the worst thing for this movie as a whole. And what I mean by that is whenever you got somebody like Hela in Ragnarok, she's such like a classic, like a dumb villain that doesn't really have like a dramatic arc that we're supposed to relate to or anything that's supposed to make us really care for her as a person, where it's like, you're just
she's their sister. That's really it.
Yeah, she's their sister, but also you met her by Anthony Hopkins dying, and like his dying wish was like, hi, also fellas,
you
got a sister and she's really strong
and evil,
and then she appears. So like that's kind of all that we get as far as Hela goes. And so I think it helps whenever you're trying to make like a really campy, comedic heavy superhero movie to not also have the like very brooding, dramatic, intense backstoried villain that we're supposed to also like empathize with, while also still wanting to like watch our friends have fun and make like silly jokes with screaming goats at the same time. So like it doesn't really, again, talking about that tonal whiplash that you're having, Gore is the best part about this movie. And I think part of the reason is because I'm like, yo, kill your masters, Gore. Like, let's fucking do this. Let's kill the gods.
Fuck the gods.
Let's fucking go.
He's got the right idea. And the way they buy you into that idea in the jump, like from the jump in the first scene is perfect. Like from the first shot of this movie, I was like, oh, fuck, here we go, dude. Here we fucking go. And I was so into that first scene. And it all kind of starts to unravel after that once you actually start to get into the, you know, the Valkyrie and New Asgard and the Infinity Cones and the Old Spice commercials and all that. But that first scene with Christian Bale was like, this is the movie right here. Holy fuck. And Bale isn't really in the movie that much at the end of the day. Like, he gets that amazing first scene. He pops in and out throughout. And every time he comes on the screen, it is absolutely magnetic. He is so evil. He's so like just deliciously sinister. Like, oh my God, the way they designed his look, his teeth, his like gray, black and white skin, incredible. Everything about that character, incredible. It's just too bad that it doesn't gel with everything else that this movie is trying to do. The one moment where I do think it does work is when they go to that black and white world and fight him. And we get that whole moment of him kind of holding all of them hostage there and having that confrontation. I think that is the best scene in the entire movie. Just because Bale just kind of gets to go nuts that entire scene. Like, that's why you get Bale for that scene. And then at the end, when he brings back his daughter, I think his acting is really good there too, and kind of ties a neat little bow at the end of the movie. But other than that, he's not in it that much. You know, I don't know how much he was really on set, really.
Yeah, what his actual screen time was.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a lot of his stuff is practical, like the makeup and stuff that they put on him. He actually did like lose a shit ton of weight and everything. He did it's Christian Bale. He did the fucking Christian Bale thing where he just my man loves to put on and lose 100 pounds compulsively.
Yeah, he actually got the necro sword, dude. He went that method where he got possessed.
He went to the center of the universe. No, I think that he's fucking great in this movie. And I think that part of it, I've seen a few people online saying this, so this isn't like an original take that I'm saying, but of the irony that it's been 10 years since he was last in
Dark Knight Rises.
And he most notably got famous for playing a superhero, and now he's kind of channeling a Joker-esque type role of trying to have that like full, like very like sinister, chaotic type of energy. And I think that maybe that is a whole thing of like, he saw how the Joker is such a impacting, such an everlasting figure of those movies, that's one of the things that drew him towards wanting to be a villain in the story. I think that he's so good. That scene that you're talking about, where they go to the planet where all the color is washed out, which is that whole stretch in the middle act is the best part of the movie, in my opinion. I think that's the part where you don't have it's the most part of the movie that feels singular, where a lot of the other movies feels like we're jumping around to all these different ideas at the same time.
And it's doing something we haven't really seen any of these Marvel movies do before. That's the other thing, is that a lot of this movie does look really kind of not great. And that scene is like, oh my God, they're actually like trying something different for this sequence.
Well, I mean, even more than that, like before that scene actually starts, the scene where they're on the I don't remember what it's called, where they're on the big boat and the ghosts are taking them, and like the way that it's visualized, the world around them is so vibrant and looks so beautiful, and kind of seeing that color slowly get washed out of the frame. That whole sequence, that sequence right there of the color of how bright and vibrant it is, and seeing that get washed away, that is like the best visual point in a Marvel movie in a long time. Just kind of having that true visual representation of like entering into the darkness.
Well, the shadows,
fucking awesome.
That's the whole thing about this character, is that he is using shadows. Like, there's a lot of shots of shadows and these shadow monsters, and the way the monsters are actually animated, where they look kind of like stop motion-y. I loved all that. It was so well done.
But I will say, to push back a little bit, the scene in which you were talking about where Christian Bale is cooking, my man is out there cooking. He is acting his goddamn ass off, calling out each and every one of them while he has shadow monsters holding them. That's one of those scenes where I'm like squinting my eyes. I'm like, are those like black vines that are holding them? What am I looking at here in the
Little too
background?
murky. Yeah,
A little
I
bit
did
murky.
IMAX 3D, and I thought it looked great in IMAX 3D. So
I mean, maybe that's a thing, but I still saw it like in a movie theater. So if I saw it in a movie theater, it doesn't look great.
right,
It's
the
gonna look like
standard
shit
should
at
be,
home. Like when
yeah,
you're watching it on your television at home with the sunlight interfering and everything else, like it's not gonna age
yeah.
well. That scene though, at least it has the benefit of being black and white. Some of the other scenes with the shadow monsters look terrible. Like when we first see the shadow monsters enter New Asgard,
That was rough.
it's like I was like kind of offended by how bad it looked. And
Also,
like I
those
know
kids that
I'm
get
sorry to
kidnapped.
like the 27 Full Sail kids that are live in our area that worked on this film or whatever. I don't know. They'll put up a
Yeah,
goddamn billboard the
it's
next
not
week.
their fault.
Um, it's not your fault,
Yeah,
but
it's the
dude,
studio.
it looks so bad. Like I could not believe what I was looking at. I was like, oh my God, like, did we take like, and maybe it's even more notable because before the movie started, you get the trailer for Avatar: Way of the Water, which
Looks
we'll see.
fantastic.
We'll see how that movie is like as a movie. It might be like very mid story wise, but it's kind of unbelievable how good that movie looks in comparison to
Incredible.
something like this. Like,
Also, just that scene, there's like a huge battle happening, and these kids are still sleeping in their beds. When I saw that, I like my mouth dropped. I was like, what? Why are you still asleep?
it's so
Find
dumb, dude.
shelter.
There's a lot, like this movie's like really dumb, like really, really
I
dumb. And it
I
kind of just wants you to just kind of give it like the forgiving, just passive, like the no, it's fine. I'll be fine.
I will
But like
say
if you think about anything in this movie, it's a nightmare.
one last thing that I wanted to bring up before we move on is talking about like moments that clicked for me in this movie is when Thor rescues the kids at the end and gives them his power to help him fight the shadow monsters with his power. And you see this little mini army of children go full Thor mode fighting these monsters. I was like, oh, like a light bulb went off, a thunderbolt went off in my head where I was like, this is it. Taika, as flawed of a movie as this is, and I can't defend him that much, but I'll defend this. He understands that this is a movie for children. And in that scene, it something clicked for me where I was like, he did not make this for the 40-something-year-old men complaining on YouTube about the MCU. He made this for kids, for little kids that are going to go and see this movie and love it and love that moment where they get to go full Thor mode and go crazy on these shadow monsters. Like, I just love that. And I think that's what it's all about. And obviously that doesn't excuse a lot of the terrible decisions made in this movie, but that moment did a lot for me in making me kind of like just give myself over to really enjoying this movie. And I had enjoyed it a lot up until that point, but that kind of sealed the deal where I was like, oh, I get it. And also a lot of those kids are the actual kids of the directors and the producers and the actors and the people making the movie, because this was a COVID production in Australia where things were like really locked down to try to contain the spread of COVID. So they decided to like make the kids that moved to Australia to make this movie a part of the movie. So I really love that scene, and it just spoke to me as to like, okay, there's something here that Taika gets as to what he's trying to do with this movie. It's really dumb, it's really silly, it's really messy, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's for the kids. So
I mean, I know Taika loves working with kids, and that's great. And some of the sequences with the kids are fun. Like they're fun and lighthearted. Again, visually, I thought it didn't look great of kids with glowing eyes and everything in a very gray, mushy background. But hey, good on you, Taika. Keep making movies with kids because that's your thing. I don't know, dude. This just like it's kind of just sat worse in my head like since I left the theater.
Well, to that point, I was going to ask you. So this is the 29th movie in the MCU. The 30th is going to be Wakanda Forever. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same way as you do, where it's like some of the magic is starting to wear off, right? Like imagine if the MCU was like Walter White's methamphetamine and we were getting that sweet blue temptation, that crystal blue, and that was like Infinity War, Endgame, like everything leading up to that, it was just like hitting so well. And now it's like they're really diluting the product. They're trying so, you got all these Disney Plus shows and shit. They are going so diluted with this good shit. It's not even good shit anymore. So it's like I feel like part of me is like I like this movie, but I'm also like I can understand that like, oh, I'm just making do with the fact that it's something, and I'm just hitting that crack pipe and I'm like, oh, it's better than nothing. At least it makes me feel good, whatever.
You're just being a good boy and eating your Disney Marvel slop.
Exactly. But it's like there's something happening where people are realizing like, hold on a second.
Oh, this isn't going anywhere, is it? Huh?
It's not even that it's not going anywhere, because I think it is fair to like expect. We've been trained to watch these movies in a certain way, to expect it all to build to something. I think that I appreciate the fact that these movies haven't really been connecting that much, because it's like we already did that. And let's take this moment to not do that for a minute. I think it's more just aside from the fact that it's not connecting. I think that just across the board, they're just not as good.
Yeah.
And people aren't being like, they're not vibing with that. They're not being as accepting of that drop in quality.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing at the end of the day. That's what I was getting at, is that like, I don't really care if like these movies if they connect to Secret Wars or are leading to fucking Jason Sudeikis and the Fantastic Four or whatever. Like, I don't really give a shit about any of that. I more so care about them being good movies. Thor Ragnarok works. Thor Ragnarok, for the most part, is kind of irrelevant to the whole Infinity War saga. Like that movie, like other than
it does a lot for the character of Thor.
Yeah, well, it does a lot for that character, but like other than like Asgard now being on Earth, does that movie have any importance to like the history of what's going on in the universe? No, it's just like a one-off story that's fun, and you get to kind of reinvent the character, but you can do that in any of these movies if they're done well. I think the problem with this movie and with a lot of the movies in this new phase that we're in right now is that it just kind of feels rudderless, more than feeling like it's not going anywhere. It's just like they're all over the place tonally. Like when you're comparing something like the new Doctor Strange movie with Black Widow, with Eternals and Shang-Chi, like there's not that there isn't cohesion as in like we're going to the same place, but there isn't really cohesion as far as like a vision goes.
Yeah.
And I don't mean a vision as far as, again, like big picture 10 years from now, the big team up that where Shang-Chi's going to be fighting alongside Harry Styles or whatever. But like, I mean vision as far as like I don't know if Kevin Feige like put on cruise control a little bit too much after Endgame, started kind of feeling himself a little bit.
I think it's the shows too. They shouldn't be. I think the shows were a mistake.
What like, why does Moon Knight need to exist?
I
Like,
don't
what are we
know.
doing?
I think that what they're trying to do is like replicate the experience of going to the comic book store. And it's like, when you go to a comic book store, you don't have to pick up every single Marvel book off the shelf to understand what's happening. Like, they want to kind of replicate that feeling where it's like all of this is out there, but you can kind of pick and choose the stories that you gravitate towards, and not feel the need to like consume every single one. But the problem is that they're producing so many of these in such a short amount of time that, again, it's diluting the the perfect crystal blue sensation. And I don't know if they are going to be able to maintain this level of output. They need to figure something out, because it's not, I don't think it's looking too well. If this is the level of quality that they expect all these movies to be while still doing the shows, something needs to change. Because I don't know if there's that much separating this movie from something like Moon Knight or Miss Marvel. It's, you need to have a more pronounced gulf in quality
Well,
between the
yeah,
movies and the shows to
yeah,
be
if
able
you're
to
expecting people
justify
to
that.
actually pay the tickets to go see
Yeah.
this movie, you know, and we won't really know, and it might not make any difference because, you know, the sheeple love to eat their slop. But I do wonder if the muted reactions to this and to Doctor Strange, like between that combined, if, and maybe it won't even affect Wakanda Forever because Black Panther was kind of such a beloved film whenever it came out. But I do wonder if audiences are gonna start to maybe not turn on this franchise, but
It's already happening. I
instead of
think
seeing
it's already happening.
$150 million weekends, what if we start seeing $100 million weekends, and like kind of starts to move that down, and Marvel maybe doesn't become as sure of a thing because people are like, A, I'm already getting my Marvel fix at home with these shows.
Right.
B, I can just watch this movie. Like, Thor's going to be out on Disney Plus in a month and a half. Honestly, I should just fucking wait a month and a half and just watch it at home. I lost absolutely nothing seeing this movie at
Yeah.
home versus seeing it in theater. And I just kind of wonder if Disney maybe overplayed their hand a little bit with all these shows. That you mentioned the whole like comic book thing that they're going for. And I think that you're right, that they want this to kind of feel like, you know, you can just pick and choose your spots whenever you want to. But
Which
that's
is,
also,
that's not a bad idea on paper. I like that idea. The problem is that, again, we've gotten so many of these in such a compressed amount of time that it doesn't, like, you can't expect the people working on these shows to be able to reach the level of quality that we were used to getting before. You know, not to say that these were amazing movies to begin with. They've always had issues. They've always been flawed. But I think that there was like a consistent level of quality that has significantly dropped off in this phase.
well, now you say that you don't have a problem with that, and like I don't in theory, but in execution, when we have to have Korg giving like 3 different like flashback monologues about the things that you missed along the way, that I don't like, because that is bad storytelling. And if we're having bad storytelling in a movie, then that affects the whole quality of the movie.
Right.
Like, that works in a comic book because it's a comic book. You're reading the whole thing anyways. But on like the visual medium of a movie or of a TV show,
You should be able to just jump in. Yeah.
Yeah, there needs to be a universality to it where like I haven't actually talked with anybody who's seen Doctor Strange who hasn't watched WandaVision, because I feel like the beginning of Doctor Strange is kind of nonsense if you haven't seen WandaVision, because it's like, well, wait, no, she was good in the last movie that I saw her in. What happened? Like that, and that movie kind of under-explains it, and this movie over-explains it. Where I don't know where the healthy balance is in between, or how to correctly visualize this previously on. Maybe we literally need like a previously on before the movie starts.
Yeah, just go full TV. Yeah.
Yeah, like let's just fucking do it. This is already television
Right.
slop anyways. Just do it previously on before we get the MCU opening title
I wouldn't put it
sequence.
past them. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think Feige, San Diego Comic-Con is around the corner. He's going to announce the game plan for the next few years. He's probably going to announce the next Avengers movie. We're going to see a more detailed, kind of roadmap of where all this is going. I don't think that guarantees that the quality is going to improve. I think that based on what we've seen so far, this might be what we get moving forward. And I think that by the time we get to the end of that roadmap that he's about to unveil, we're going to look back and we're going to be like, oh no, this did not go as well as the previous time that they did this. Because when we got to Endgame, it was like, holy shit, he did it. He did the impossible. Everybody doubted him and he fucking did it.
He landed the plane.
I don't think that's going to happen again. I highly, highly doubt it. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong to doubt the Feige, but I seriously doubt that it's going to happen again. And just look at this year, this box office, look at how much fucking money Top Gun Maverick has made compared to these two Marvel movies. That tells you everything you need to know about what audiences want. And as soon as you start to see the quality of these things drop off and audiences turn and the backlash be so much more pronounced than I've ever seen it with these things, and you see a movie like Top Gun Maverick just ridiculously outperform everything else, that tells you everything. That tells you that people do not want superheroes and, Marvel green screen shit. They want real old-fashioned fucking action movie making that isn't just this noise, which I'm a fan. Like I said, like I enjoyed this movie, but you gotta see the cards how they're dealt. And it's very, very clear that people are responding to this with their dollars, with what they're going back to the movies to see, with what is getting the best reviews and the best response. It's Top Gun Maverick. That's just the way it is. That's just the numbers in front of us.
Do you think, and I have another thought that I want to come back to, but do you think that maybe it's the day and age that we're in of we are like everyone is so hyper plugged into the internet that little like Rotten Tomatoes meter that appears a week, 2 weeks before the movie comes out that tells you before you go to buy your ticket if this movie is going to be good or bad is affecting audiences more now than it did, say, 5 years ago pre-COVID. Because I do wonder, even with something like Jurassic World Dominion, Jurassic movies are like, they were kind of like an unstoppable force. Like even whenever they're bad, it was like, cool, they'll make $1.5 billion. Like it'll just like shit it out. It doesn't even matter. And even the new Jurassic World kind of was fairly middling, all things considered. Like it's very not doing great overall compared, especially like worldwide, or especially domestic, I should say. Worldwide, it's still making its numbers, but domestic, it's really kind of underperforming compared to expectations. And I wonder if the audience, or whenever the early reviews are coming out that are so negative, if that is turning people away who are on the fence. Maybe, and meanwhile, you do get something like Top Gun Maverick, where
much better reception.
When you just keep hearing everyone say it's great, it's great, it's great, that's going to bring in different audiences. I mean, great, Top Gun kind of has a built-in audience that isn't necessarily classic moviegoers that
and
it pulls
Tom,
in.
People want to see Tom, dude.
And movie stars are back. That's the other thing. Are there any movie stars left in these movies? I guess, I mean, there's Chris Hemsworth. For what
Hemsworth is no Tom.
Well, I mean, Chris Hemsworth isn't even Chris Evans. Chris Hemsworth isn't Robert Downey Jr.
Right.
Like, I think these movies kind of have a movie star problem where they don't really have. It's not fucking Benedict Cumberbatch. I'm sorry.
No. Tom Holland's probably the closest thing. Zendaya, that.
Yeah, but Tom Holland isn't. I mean, he is a movie star. Like, he's able to kind of do his thing. He was in fucking Uncharted. Like, he's able to kind of do those movies, but he doesn't have the like old school movie stardom. There isn't like 40, 50-year-old people, middle-aged people who are like going to the theater like,
Yeah.
oh man, I
Tom
remember when that
Holland.
kid was coming. Tom Holland. I remember when he was even a smaller child. So that's one problem that they have. Another problem, and I don't want to belabor this too much because we've been talking about this movie for way too long, but I think that Marvel needs to figure out like how much importance they want to put on these TV shows. Because I think that right now another
It's
problem is that
tough.
they're trying to like they don't know where the line is where they're trying to throw their weight behind these shows to convince people why they should tune in and why they're important to watch. But also they don't matter for the rest of the story, at least so far, with the exception of WandaVision and I guess Falcon and Winter Soldier. But like they don't really matter as far as the movies are concerned for the most part right now. And if you're eventually going to make them matter, like if Moon Knight's going to show up in Secret Wars or whatever the hell, then how are you now not only going to get audiences to tune into your movie and in the theater, but also to watch your product on the service? That I think that Disney kind of they're at a point right now that I think that they are getting to with Star Wars 2 where they're starting to oversaturate the market too much.
Exactly.
And it's kind of simple economics that if you just keep pumping product into the market, that makes the entire value of it as a whole go down.
Yep. They're diluting the product, man. The beautiful blue meth is not what it used to be. This is an approximation of that. And I don't know if they're gonna return back to that. So we'll see what happens.
Real quick, just I need to actually do a thorough update of this list, my Letterboxd list, because I haven't in a while. Where do you have Love and Thunder in comparison in the Marvel rankings?
I put it kind of in the middle. So there's 29 movies. I have it at 13. So
Okay.
right between Spider-Man Far From Home and Black Panther. So, I'm just kind of assuming that it might age well because it's so inconsequential. It just feels like this throwaway side story. And I think looking back, we might gravitate towards that a little bit more than the like hyper, mythology building ones. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with time. I might like Multiverse of Madness more with time, or it's like the thing about this is that this thing has been going on for so long that like now I'm looking at movies like Iron Man 3 and Captain America the First Avenger, which are lower in my ranking than this, and I'm like, man, maybe those should probably move up over this, so it's like this whole thing could shift with time.
Yeah, like did I underrate that thing now in hindsight of seeing the other things that have come
Right.
after it? I would say I've only seen 25 Marvel movies of the 29. I have Thor, Love and Thunder at 21.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have 3 of my bottom 5 are Thor movies.
Oh,
It
nice.
is right in between Ant-Man the Wasp and Black Widow.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, didn't love this movie. I hope that it makes a comeback in some way that they can revitalize the Thor character. Who
We'll
knows?
see.
I mean, these sequels that they set up in the post-credit sequence, maybe we'll see them in 10 years. Maybe we just like won't see them. They might just not ever come to fruition.
Roy Kent. He's here. He's there. He's every
He's every
fucking
fucking
one.
where. Roy Kent.
That
Yeah.
was really rough when I saw that. I was like, I can't believe we're doing this. This is truly terrible.
Did you clap?
I face palmed. I was like, oh boy. All right.
Cool.
So let's take the Rainbow Road Bridge out of the Shadow Realm into Hawkins upside down for Stranger Things season 4. We touched on this a little bit during a catch-up episode a couple weeks ago, when volume 1 had come out. And now volume 2 has come out, which was just 2 episodes, but they were both essentially feature length films to wrap up the season. And we've seen all of them. I shared a bunch of thoughts during that episode that were pretty positive. I think I called this my favorite season of the series, which I don't know if I stand 100% by that. I think I might have to put it at number 2 behind the first season, because I feel like, the first season, it did the thing. It just kind of started the whole ordeal. You can't really beat that. But I think this is a solid number 2. I think Vecna is like the best villain they've had. And yeah, like I mentioned before, this whole season was so bloated and overlong, with these like mega length episodes that I don't think were necessary, but I think it was worth it. Like, obviously there's a lot there that you can trim out to make it a little bit more of a streamlined viewing experience, but this is a really, really entertaining show. And I think it deserves the popularity, the massive popularity that it has. What did you think?
So I had not seen the first part of Stranger Things whenever we last did our catch up. And I think I agree with you that this is either number 2 or number 3 to me. The first season does like kind of perfectly capture that magic that I don't really think that the show has ever been able to capture that exact same feeling again. Part of that is just because of, with more seasons, you have to get bigger, you have to expand your cast, so on and so forth. That can't really capture that lightning in the bottle feeling. Another might just be that they're now making the kid who was just comatose for all of season 1. They're now actually making him act, unfortunately. And sorry to Noah Schnapp, but you don't got it, kid.
The most unfortunate haircut of all time.
Dude, okay, so I'm sorry. Listeners, I'm sorry right now. I'm gonna say it. Noah Schnapp is a really bad actor. I think he's bad in the show. Every time he has like
one scene.
He has one note, and it's just being like really sad and concerned for his friends. That's his one note that he has. And I was like, oh my God, if I see this kid looking out the window and starting to cry one more goddamn time, I'm gonna fucking lose it. There's the whole like meme that's now going around that's literally of him looking out the window about to cry. And that's every goddamn scene that he's in.
But Hunter, he's a gay boy in the 80s.
I know, I get it. Yeah, and I love how their only depiction of gay people, of gay boys, is that they're like very oversensitive and about to cry all the time. That's really great. How progressive. I digress away from Noah Schnapp. Sorry, Will. Sorry, not sorry.
Will.
I think that this season is really good though. You're right. Vecna is a great villain. I really like what they did with this character. I think that some of the reveal, without getting too spoilery, towards the end of part 1,
everyone's seen it. We can talk about it. Everyone has seen the show.
Okay, so spoilers for Stranger Things. The reveal of who Vecna is clumsy, I'd say, but also I do understand this is a show for like the lowest common denominator, and it's a show for people who are also on their phones while watching it.
It's very broad. It's not interested in like diving into the minutia of it all.
It kind of has to over-explain things. So this is going to sound negative, and I don't mean this in a negative way. So I'm going to like kind of explain myself here. But I think Stranger Things is the show that I enjoy the most, that I care the least about. And what I mean by that is like, I wouldn't say that I have an emotional connection with this show at all.
Right.
A lot of times this show is just like, it's kind of just dumb fun.
Yeah.
And like, if I think about it at all, I don't really care. I don't have any emotional connection to any character except for Joe Keery. Joe Keery is a goddamn movie star in the making, and we need to protect that man at all costs. But
Also,
otherwise,
Eddie, we'll get into Eddie, but
no,
I
we'll
would
get to
die
Eddie
for that man.
because Joseph Quinn, I love that guy. But for the most part, I don't really care about a lot of the connection that they're trying to have. I think that part of it is that they're in so many different places all at once, and this season especially is
Yeah, you're going to
bloated as
Russia,
hell. We're in fucking Russia.
California.
We're with like the younger kids. Then also we have the Joe Keery, Maya Hawke,
which is the best
that
stuff
whole-
of this season. And I mentioned
Yes.
this last time. Everything that happens in
You're right.
Hawkins is so well done.
The Nancy Steve Robin stuff is easily the best part about the entire season. Like I kind of want like a whole Nancy Drew-esque show with just those three, like getting into their antics together, because I fucking love them. People who are now trying to reunite Nancy and Jonathan, fuck right off with that. I don't care about Charlie Heaton. That man has no chemistry with anybody except for maybe stoner guy
at the
Eduardo
end,
Franco.
the last episode when they finally reunite and you kind of get Steve off to the side looking longingly. I'm like, God damn it.
Like, no, get this guy. Come on. Do you see him? He's so hot. No, I really like this season though. I don't say that to come off like fully negatively, because there is a lot of scenes and a lot of sequences and stuff in this new season that was just like, yo, this fucking rocks. The Metallica scene in the season finale,
Master
way
of
too
Puppets.
Long, 2.5 hours. It's as long as Thor: Love and Thunder, one episode of this.
It's much
show.
longer than Thor: Love and Thunder by like 20 minutes, I think.
Dear God. Maybe Thor: Love and Thunder just felt like it was 3.5 hours long.
The thing is that like there are moments in this final episode that are clear episode breaks where it literally fades to black.
Yeah, it's like, why didn't we just why what it's 9? It's not like we're like hitting like a hard 10 or like a hard 12. Like
it's a budgetary thing, so they don't have to spend more money on the actors, because I think the actors are paid per episode. So you just
that's
stretch
really
the runtime. Yeah,
they're like, oh, sorry guys, we have a 2.5 hour episode of our show. Sorry, I guess you can't get paid now. That's really shit. I actually didn't know that, and that kind of sucks.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how these deals work. Which I don't know, maybe get a new deal with your agent, Winona.
That's the downside of working for Netflix, when you just have no idea how long your episode is going to be. Yeah, I really like this season a lot. I thought it was a lot of fun. There's some really visually interesting stuff. There is some stuff that looks bad. In the words of friend of the pod, Harry, there's a scene at the end of part 1 when we first see one become Vecna. Friend of the pod, Harry, said, I liked when he got sucked into a Meatloaf album cover, which is the best description of it that I've ever heard, because it's just like red and black cloudiness, and kind of the world's inverting on itself, and it looks really bad. But for a show that has like, I don't know, costs like $50 million per episode or whatever, but
and they do a lot of things that like they don't necessarily need to do. Like there's a scene where 11 crashes a helicopter from the sky into the ground. It's like, what does this really serve the plot other than like 11 has her powers back? You know, like I think that's a good moment to see like, okay, she's finally got her powers back, but it's also like, damn, that you did that for real. You did it a real explosion. And it's like, damn, you're just flexing how much money you have.
But to that point, and that's a good example, mentioning the whole bring the helicopter down, for a show and for a season of television that feels so bloated, it also feels like there were so many corners cut all the time, storyline wise. Like we end episode 1 of part 2 with 11. I think it's the end of episode. I could be wrong. I could be mixing up. It could be end of part 1 or whatever. But
well, that's
so
the end of
that's
the end of that first episode, is when the helicopter comes down. Yeah.
Okay. So cool. So 11 is trying to leave. her little compound where she's stuck in, and then she has this whole like showdown where they're like, you're actually not allowed to leave, you're stuck here. And then 15 minutes later, it's like, actually, just kidding, we're getting invaded, so never mind that whole plot line. We actually did have to weirdly cut an hour out of this segment here. Like that, there is weird narrative things, and it's all over the season where it just like feels like, oh, we're jumping to this thing now. Oh, like we were setting up one thing, now we're jumping this, but wait, let me check the time. Oh, there's still 90 minutes left in this episode.
Yeah.
So like,
well,
what are we?
It's tough because
what are we doing?
each storyline seems to they're cutting, it seems like they're cutting evenly between each storyline, but each storyline isn't necessarily playing out over the same amount of time. It's almost like they're attempting a Dunkirk. It's like you have air,
yeah,
sea, and the mole. And in Dunkirk, everything that happens in the air happens over the course of like an hour. And everything that happens on land happens over the course of like a day. And then, sea. And then on land happens over the course of a week. So it's like over the course of this 2.5 hours movie, you're cutting between these 3 different timelines that are playing out over much, much different amounts of time. Right. And Dunkirk does that extremely well, in my opinion. I think that maybe this is trying to do a similar thing, but I don't know if it's exactly in the same way, because at the beginning of the season, we see Winona leave for Russia, right? And then obviously she comes back at the end. So we know that amount of time has passed, right? And same thing with 11, where it's like, okay, we see her go into this facility and then come out. So that it's like that same amount of time. But it's like you don't get the feeling that the events are happening concurrently, that whatever's happening in these 3 different places is happening at the same time and over the same amount of time as everything else. So I think that might be like why that discrepancy is happening, because it's like, oh, how much time did they spend in the airplane in Russia? How much time did she spend in the fucking tub in the underground bunker in Nevada?
Yeah, like how many sessions was she doing like 2 a days in there? Like what are we talking about? These sensory deprivation tanks, excuse me.
That's why the Hawkins stuff is the best, because there is this clear sense of momentum in
like
the storyline.
Day night. You can, and I think it is because you literally are seeing the days go by.
And the progression of the story with the
Mm-hmm.
murders, these people are dying, the town going crazy over losing these kids and like what's happening and blaming Eddie for it. There is this like more clear progression to that storyline that feels like we can connect to it more, that we don't really have with the other 2.
I think that you might be right, but also trying to assign the Dunkirk quality of storytelling to it might be giving the show too much credit, where I think that maybe it's just as simple as whenever you spread out your main characters into this many storylines, some of the arcs just don't work well. Like for example, I think everything in Russia fails. I truly did not care. As soon as we went to Russia, I was so bored and was like, can we please get back to like real human beings?
That's when I went to take a shit or check my phone.
Oh, they're communists, so they experiment with these upside down alien creatures, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, what?
And I love Winona.
Year is this? Like,
I love Brett Gelman.
No, exactly. Like the trio of them are good actors, and I kind of feel bad they're just kind of stuck doing nonsense.
Yeah.
Like I really actually like the guy. Let me pull up his
Game
name
of Thrones
here.
guy. A man has no name.
Yeah, exactly. That guy. I think that he's really good, and him and David Harbour have a really good chemistry with each other. Are you pulling up his name?
Jack and Hagar.
There, yeah, that's it. There you go. I think that he is like really great, and I liked their chemistry together, but I just don't care about like the whole we went through a portal and we're in a Russian prison now, and they are just like torturing them because, you know, it's the Cold War. I just found that all like extremely uninteresting, and a show that has a lot of
Yeah.
interesting ideas. And
It's
the fact
just
that we
so
spent
obvious that
so much time.
it has to connect. Like we know that it's going to get to the point where it's connect back to 11. And it's
Right.
like,
So
we're just waiting for that moment where it's like, all right, let's just get to that. And I honestly, I like the idea on paper. I like the idea of them fighting a Demogorgon in a Siberian prison, gladiator style. Like that's a cool idea.
Yeah, but
It's just
it took 9 episodes, 9 episodes to get there. So
exactly.
Yeah, it just doesn't really land. I'd say the whole 11 storyline, Millie Bobby Brown, weirdly, Millie Bobby Brown and Finn Wolfhard kind of get sidelined in a weird way this season. At least
Finn
I thought.
Wolfhard is like not a great actor.
Yeah, so that's a whole other thing.
He's been
isn't it
good
kind
before.
of funny that
He was solid in It. I liked him in It.
I think that he might have the potential. It feels like he doesn't know what this character is anymore.
This is becoming kind of a bad character. Like Will kind of sucks. He's unaware
Mike,
of like
Mike.
Yeah, sorry. Well, Will kind of does suck too.
No, Will
for
really
different
sucks.
reasons. But no, yeah, Mike is so like emotionally unavailable. Like Will is clearly trying to tell him that like I am in love with you.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, dude, what?
So, dude,
I have a girlfriend.
I don't want to say I love you, and I don't want to say I love my girlfriend. I just want to go be in pop music videos.
I think that if these guys, the Duffer brothers, Duffer 1 and Duffer 2, sitting in bed together, holding hands.
You think they're like the Property Bros? Like they're low key actually sleeping together?
If they're smart, they'll do something interesting with Mike that explores this idea of him being like not that great of a guy.
Yeah, I want him to be a shithead. Like, let's just go. I already like Finn Wolfhard kind of has like an unlikable face. So let's just embrace that.
Yeah. And 11, like Millie Bobby Brown has become a huge star. She's in a lot of stuff these days. And it sucks that this show that made her kind of has more time for other people than her, even though she's like the biggest face on the poster. You know, we did have to spend a lot of time regaining her powers and having this kind of like backtracking storyline for her, which was rough. But I do think, again, a lot of this season is kind of very bloated and overlong, and it is kind of like a bit of a struggle to get through. But I did like where it ends up. And going into volume 2, based on where volume 1 ends, I think that the 11 stuff is really good because it's like, all right, we're back. She has her powers back. She went through this whole journey of like figuring out what this facility was that was experimenting on her and her relationship to Vecna. All of that I think is great, even though the path there was not so kind of, you know, all figured out and all together. I don't know if she's the most interesting character in the show anymore.
I think it's kind of ironic that Finn Wolfhard and Millie Bobby Brown came out as like they were the two figures, like they were the center of Stranger Things coming out of season 1. And now I just find everything that Gatton Madazzo, the guy who plays Dustin, and Caleb McLaughlin who plays Lucas, like I just find them to be so much more interesting and so much more fun and adding so much more life to everything than anything they're doing.
Also, Sadie Sink, who plays Max.
Yeah.
Incredible performance
everything that 11, it's kind of weird. 11's been kind of replaced as far as like an emotional weight to the story for this Max character.
Yeah. She gets the most like emotionally climactic moments. She gets the whole Kate Bush moment that everyone's been talking about. And her performance is genuinely great. I mean, she is the one who's like most at peril when it comes to Vecna. And I mentioned this last time, but you know, one of the best things about Vecna is that he's such a clear metaphor for depression. They did a really, really good job, like clearly outlining that.
Depression and guilt. Which, I
Right.
mean, we don't need another fucking show to tell us that guilt is the true enemy alone. Watch any A24 movie, any A24 horror movie from the last 10 years.
But this character Max,
it's really well
embodies
done.
that really, really well. You know, she lost her brother. There's all the depression and guilt there of that, and all of the other horrible things that have happened to her. And she does a really, really great with her performance, and just kind of making us feel like this villain is a real threat, and also like seeing how that threat can really impact someone. She is the core of this whole season, and I think is what makes it great. And you know, we're getting into it. Where people have seen it. If you've seen it, then why are you listening? If you haven't seen it, then why are you listening to this? But what happens to her is really fucking upsetting. And to end on her with like all 4 of her limbs completely shattered, and she's like essentially like brain dead. 11 can't connect with her telepathically at all. She has like no eyes. And that moment of Lucas like holding her, I was like, I couldn't believe that. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this show. I mean, this has been a really dark season, but damn, this is fucked up.
It does end on a dark note, and I think that the show really needed that. Because and we can talk about our boy Eddie, but like this season needed somebody to die.
Well,
Like
every season has kind of
no.
a
But
big death.
it needed a main character to die, because we needed to have
well, everyone thought
some
Steve
kind
wasn't
of
gonna make it. That was like the big theory.
dude. If Steve fucking dies, I riot. Okay, I refuse to watch this
That
goddamn
scene
show.
where
So curious
he's
about
driving
all.
the Winnebago and he's like, yeah, I just want a family of
I
little
know,
Steve
dude.
Harringtons.
I know.
I'm like, oh fuck, dude. This guy's
Honestly, they
fucked.
set up him. They do kind of a good fake out, because for him and Lucas also gets like kind of one of those like, I've learned from my mistakes and I'm gonna be a better person now. And you're like, oh, this fucker's gonna die. So they like set that up, that kind of, and it doesn't exactly pan out. Joseph Quinn, RIP, buddy. I have Eddie thoughts, but I'll save that for just a second, just to talk about Max. That the show needed stakes in a way that it didn't have before, and not stakes as like David Harbour got sucked into a portal and is now in a Russian prison, but like we know that he's still alive. We needed stakes
He
as
is
like
Hellboy though, so keep that in mind.
oh, of course. Fuck, how could I forget that he's Hellboy? We need stakes as to know like that these kids aren't gods, and that they are able to get hurt and die in these situations.
Right.
And I'm not saying that they need to Game of Thrones this thing and just fucking kill people willy-nilly, but you still have to have something in there to keep people attached, keep people emotionally invested, and not just have that whole like cartoon superhero effect where you're like, don't worry, Thor is going to make it out of this. Okay. Like you need something like that. And so the way that we end up with the Max character does kind of, it's like dipping its toes in. It's not fully investing, because I'm going to go ahead and say spoilers for season 5 right now. She'll be alive in some form capacity. She'll be able to telepathically do something. Like she's not dead, so she'll be involved in some way, shape, or form. But at least
I'll be
like
shocked if she's not. Yeah.
she'll have some kind of physical ailments to everything. Do you want to talk about Eddie? Talk about our boy Joseph Quinn.
Master of puppets. Yeah, dude.
Man,
this guy
this was-
fucking rocks, dude. Even from the jump, like the first scene that he's introduced when he's jumping on the fucking cafeteria table, like I was like, this is my fucking guy. Holy shit. And of course, he's framed for the murder of Cassie, I think her name is. And he's on the run. And we're with him for a good bit of that first half, where it's like this guy's being framed for what Vecna is doing. and they think that he's like this cult leader, doing D&D, how they see the whole D&D thing as like a Satanist cult that's infecting the children. I thought that was really good. And a good commentary on like 21st century America too, and how quickly this town is just like able to just point at these kids and call them Satanists. And this handsome blonde fella standing in front of the crowd, really riling them up and getting them all agitated, which I was really happy.
Proud boy.
I was really happy to see him get just completely chopped in half with the the upside down portal opening. That was a great moment.
Yeah, I don't know who that guy is, but like if that guy was born like 30 years earlier, he's definitely a proud boy. Like he is just fully just.
Well, this is 86, so
there.
he grows up to be he grows up to be like a 50-something, 60-something proud boy easily.
Oh, absolutely.
But yeah,
a
Joseph
proud
Quinn,
man, if you will.
He doesn't make it out of this season. I don't know why I thought he would, but I was really sad.
Let me tell you, from episode 1, I was like, I have bad news for our guy. Eddie is not going to make it.
But he was such a joy. Every scene that this guy is in is like just automatically one of the best scenes of the season. He brings so much life and energy, and I kept watching for him. Just so much of this season I kept watching just for him because he is incredible. I have my eye on him. I'm gonna see him in whatever he's in. He's so talented. I fucking love this guy.
He was in a Mangrove, the Small X.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is he one of the racist cops?
Who the fuck? He was somebody named PC Dixon.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a cop. No, he's fucking amazing. I knew it. That first scene is great, and the scene also in the first episode of the season where they're playing D&D, and the cutting between that and the basketball game is like truly like one of the best directing choices, the directing that the Duffer Brothers have done in all of Stranger Things. As far as neither of them are like really action set pieces or are super CGI heavy in any way, but it's just really good at kind of telling two escalating kind of sequences at the same time that have completely different stakes from each other. I just thought that was really, really well done, and he is fucking excellent in that scene, actually playing Vecna. Knew our guy was gonna die from like day one. It was just like it was, you knew it was gonna happen. And it sucks too, because he had to die because Stranger Things already has a too many characters problem.
Right.
Where when I say that we can kill some characters off, it's because we keep introducing goddamn characters and then not killing them off. And then we have to like, oh, let's go check in on that doctor that 11 used to have. Let's go see what he's up to for a few episodes this season. And then let's go check in on this guy from season 2 and see what's happening there. And it just leads to the I'm going to look down at my phone moments that this show makes, because we aren't staying as focused. I'm really curious. Does season 5 come out next year?
They haven't even started shooting it yet. So
okay.
Yeah. Probably
because
have to wait a while
if
for
they're
that.
I wonder how they're going to format it. I almost wonder if they're just going to do like 5 2.5-hour episodes or like something like that.
I can see that.
Maybe Netflix will break its whole thing and they'll release one a week or something like that. Because
I like the splitting it in 2 because that allowed people to have like some type of buildup of conversation.
Well, that's what I mean is that I think that would be in Netflix's best interest to kind of spread this baby out as long as they have, because the dirty little secret is that Netflix really fucking needs Stranger Things.
Mm-hmm. Did you see that the Duffer Brothers are going to be producing more stuff?
Yeah, Upside Down Productions got announced this last week or so that they can continue to make Stranger Things
still sitting in bed together. Just arms interlock with their little laptops out.
Just
Duffer 1, Duffer 2.
Just one of them's going upside down, let me tell you.
But yeah,
I'm sorry.
Eddie is the standout here, and his dynamic with Dustin is phenomenal. And you
Dude,
even throw Steve in there. You get the
I
three
know
of them
the
bouncing off of
scenes.
each other.
That's really like that's my core 5 sum that we can have is just the Nancy, Steve, Robin, Dustin, and Eddie. Like that group together is just so much fun. You have like the kind of will they, won't they between Nancy and Steve, which is fucking great because I mean, we mentioned I would die for Joe Keery, but also I think that excuse me, Natalie Dyer as Nancy is just like so good at playing like a very classic 80s, like a very classic 80s character. Like she would fit in perfectly just in like something like Breakfast Club or something like that with this type of this performance that she's giving in here. Of course, I love Maya Hawke. Stan her.
She has some
Her
great
whole
moments this season.
she
She's
has some great
so
moments.
good.
I will say, love Maya Hawke to death. Her like being a lesbian just as like a whole plot point whenever it's convenient isn't great. It's kind of messily handled.
Again, too many
I don't know.
characters. It's that same
Yeah,
issue. Yeah, you can't
her
really
and
devote too much time.
well, her and Will, it's just kind of like, did you just make them gay to seem progressive? Because you aren't actually doing anything interesting with the fact that they're gay. You're
Right.
just kind of you made it there just as like a plot point, and just so like you can have some almost like throwaway funny lines with like Maya and Joe or with Robin and Steve, like, oh, we're just very like we're just friends. We're just capital F friends. Um yeah. But that stuff all works. Dustin's great. I fucking love that guy. That he's such just a beacon of light in this show.
Yeah.
And he kind of is like the only like remaining element from season 1 from a character perspective that's kind of stayed true throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Like his character
The
hasn't
sense of adventure.
yeah, his character hasn't changed. Not that it hasn't changed in like a bad way, because change is good. Like, I mean, Joe Keery isn't likable the first time that you see him as Steve
Yeah,
Harrington.
what
but
a wild character arc for that guy. And I guess Nancy too, to the same extent, where it's like they were just very kind of stock like 80s high school kids.
Mhm.
And now they've just like really become something, unique. And I think those actors have a lot to do with it, just because they're so kind of charismatic and can shape those characters to be what they've become. But that
do you think, and maybe I'm just like spitballing here, but do you think that like the show has evolved in this way because like just over the course of 4 seasons, the Duffer Brothers have picked up on like Joe Keery has chops, and maybe fuck is his name? Charlie Heaton, who plays Jonathan, like maybe this kid doesn't got it. So we'll just make him be a stoner. So when he's not acting, we can just say that he's high.
That's tough. I did like his friend though, Eduardo Franco.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's
dude.
Argyle.
Yeah.
He's playing the Cheech and Chong type, the 80s guy, 80s stoner guy. He has some funny lines in there. Their characters can get a little bit annoying at times when it's like, oh, you're still doing the stoner guy thing in a dramatic sequence. Like,
right.
come on,
You
let's
need
kinda
one
keep
guy
this
to at
going.
least kind of keep things a little light.
But I mean, similar, maybe it's just the Byers family. I'm sorry, like maybe we could have a do-over Winona Ryder with your kids, because
Dude,
your kids just don't got it.
How do you just go to Russia and you abandon your child?
I've abandoned my child. I've abandoned my boys.
Your adopted daughter that is like clearly being bullied at school and is not having a good experience. You're just going to leave her? She just tried to murder someone with a skate.
Yeah, well, Yeah, maybe we shouldn't go to Russia after doing that, after our child just like committed assault. I don't know.
I think she was already gone
Little
at that
parenting
point.
things. Oh, cool. What a great mom.
She was already on the plane.
Jesus Christ. One other thing, I have a note for you, Joyce. Maybe your kid's getting bullied at school because you're dressing her like a middle-aged woman and she's 12.
Yeah,
So
tough outfits. Yeah.
Or 14, whatever the hell. There's
Millie Bobby
what are
Brown
they
is
trying
like
to do?
19.
No, well, I feel like they don't know how to dress her character, because they're just like, well, we can't dress her like a 19-year-old would dress in the 80s because she has to be playing 14, but also like she doesn't really look like a 14-year-old. Some of the de-aging stuff does not look great.
Yeah, it's a little rough. Yeah.
It looks a little bit Luke Skywalker-y. Not great, not great. But just more than that, some of the outfits are just insane. The Millie Bobby Brown's outfit that she has for like the last episode,
yeah, that's such a weird
like
outfit.
that flowery pattern.
Did people dress like that in the 80s? Like,
I've
I did
never
not
seen
get that.
anyone wear that shirt in my life. I don't know what they were like. It kind of baffles me that like who chose this outfit? What are we doing?
Yeah, tough look. So yeah, season 5 is going to be the last one. They're saying they might have a time jump to deal with these kids getting so much older, but based on the end of this season, I don't see how they can do that, because it's very much like setting up like a direct conflict of like a giant portal to the upside down has opened in the middle of Hawkins. Like, how do you do a time jump after that? You have to pick up where that leaves off. I don't see how you can do a time jump. But maybe they'll figure out a way. I don't know. Or they can just keep pretending that these kids are like 14 as they go into their 20s.
Yeah, no, I can't
luck.
wait for Finn Wolfhard to be like 25 and just looking just all skin and bone and just like really tall and just the lanky. He looks like fucking Chet Holmgren out there, and he's just
Joe
out there
Keery. Joe
Keery
is just gonna start looking like very much like in his late 20s. He's like, no, I'm still.
At least they have Joe Keery, who has like such a. Joe Keery is 30 right now.
My God,
he is 30, which at least
looks great for 30.
At least they did cast a guy who just doesn't grow facial hair. Like, I mean, that's good. Or like grows very little facial hair, very soft, nice skin. So it makes it easier for this kind of a role. But yeah, they better start filming this thing quick, because they ain't getting any younger.
We'll see.
They tried to at least do that. The funniest thing is, if you look up pictures of Caleb McLaughlin now, my guy is like jacked. Like he's fucking fit. The guy
is that Lucas?
Yeah, that's Lucas.
Yeah.
Which they make him like so that he's on the basketball team and everything.
I think he has the most drastic change of anyone in between seasons. He looks so different. He used to be so tiny. He was a little guy.
Yeah, he's just a little guy. He's fucking fit now.
Yeah.
One other thing, real quick before we wrap, just because I hadn't seen part 1 before whenever we talked last time.
Mm-hmm.
The running up that hill sequence, that song is now, it's approaching territory of being overplayed, even though it's a straight banger, and real ones have been out here listening to Kate Bush for years. We didn't need a Netflix show to tell us to listen to Kate Bush. But it's a really good sequence. It's really fucking well done.
Very effective.
The remix that they kind of make to it, that's like orchestral and kind of like playing out these lines, is very epic. It's really, really well done. It's kind of funny because the show almost makes a joke about overplaying running up that hill. Like, I think that Max has that line where she's like, what if this doesn't become my favorite song anymore?
Yeah. It's like, I'm ready to listening to a
10-hour loop of it. But yeah, no, it's a great song, and that sequence is great.
We also get a
And
good
yeah.
moment of when they're trying to save what's her name? Nancy, and they're going through all of Eddie's tapes, and he holds up Iron Maiden. He's like, "This is music." They're all frustrated that I can't find something that she's gonna like.
That rocks.
That was a really, really good moment. Yeah, Eddie, man. Fuck yeah.
God,
Like
I'm
that
sad
Master of
that
Puppets sequence, dude. God damn, that was so fucking badass.
that shit rocked. And that was just like,
oh,
that was one of the few scenes where I was
incredible.
like, yeah, this fucking rules. Like, I don't care what's happening, or I don't care that there's just like ominous red clouds floating around right now. Like, I'm basically
Yeah.
looking at a modern version of an 80s music video, and this rocks. I'm
It
into
was
this.
very, very well done. And then at the end, when Dustin is talking to Eddie's uncle and telling him like he was a hero, I genuinely got emotional. I was like, man, they really did the work to make this like emotionally click. For as much as like I agree with the point you were making earlier about how like I don't really care that much about these people, for that scene they did the work to set that up properly to get that emotional payoff of when he's talking to his uncle. Like that was so devastating, of telling him like, yeah, he sacrificed himself for this town that hated him. Like, oh my God, that got me. That was really well done.
I do think like that. That's why I didn't mean it in like an insulting way, because I really enjoyed this season of TV, but it's kind of the show that emotionally didn't click with me as much as some of my other favorite TV shows, but I was arguably more entertained than those other TV shows, if that
Yes,
makes sense.
totally
Like I was
agree.
just, this is very, very entertaining television. It's kind of the best version of these kind of a broad television show. Like we just got done talking about Thor and kind of talking about the other Marvel properties, which are trying to do this wide, broad band of television and of filmmaking to appeal to every audience in the world. And I think that those are widely unsuccessful as of late. And I think that Stranger Things is very successful in what it's trying to do. It can't be, at least in my opinion, for me personally, I know a lot of people disagree with this, but it won't ever have the same emotional connection with me because it is so broad, but it executes the whole idea of being entertaining better than any of those other properties do,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
and that's why it's so popular, you know. And I think it earns it. I think that it deserves to be as popular as it is. So we can wrap it up there. Thank you all for listening. Please be sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Like and comment. Let us know your thoughts on Stranger Things, on Love and Thunder, and check out webotamic.net for all other episodes and archives and backlog of all the other things that we have going on, including our return to Robin Williams' career arc series. We just did the Birdcage. We got Jack coming up. And yeah, probably also checking in on the new Jordan Peele, Nope. That is right around the corner too. You excited for Nope?
I'm excited for Nope. I had a Nope like moment at my house last night when
Right.
I just saw, I sent a picture to Ernest and to some friends last night. There was just an ominous thing that I just saw in my sky above my house that who knows, maybe Nope is coming to me.
Yeah, it's the viral marketing campaign really
That
getting...
Jordan Peele actually got real aliens to show up above a film critic's homes to prepare them for Nope.
I know you're also trying to get caught up on The Boys season 3, so we might bring you an episode on that as well. And let's see what else. I know The Bear is also another
The Bear,
one.
We're gonna have to talk about The Bear.
Yeah,
there's some good shit right now. The movies aren't getting, there isn't a lot of big movies coming out for the next few weeks other than Nope.
That's why it's perfect to jump back into Robin.
Yeah.
So check out the Birdcage if you haven't already. Check out Jack. And then we got the second half of his big 90s run coming up with things like Flubber. Flubber is coming up. So
not his Oscar-winning performance in Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
We got Flubber.
Maybe he should have won an Oscar for Flubber. We'll see. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thank you, donors, for donating. And we will see you next time. We love you. Bye-bye.
Bye.